Welcome to Rebel Watch, an all Star Wars podcast.
Hey, what are you trying to push on us?
Perhaps you think you're being treated unfairly.
Hey Star Wars fans, welcome back to Rebel Watch. I'm Ez, and today I have with me Matt. How's it going, Matt?
It's going good. How are you?
Doing well, buddy. I'm actually excited for this one. We have a guest with us today, and I'm really excited to get her perspective on The Last Jedi, Han Solo, and all things Star Wars. Her name is Lindsey Guidotti. She is a fellow YouTuber and blogger. She's got something on YouTube called Movie Losers, and she also blogs on Clashing Sabers, and we've referenced her before. So how's it going, Lindsey?
It's going really good. I'm really excited to be here with you guys.
Awesome.
Cool.
That's awesome. And do you care if we get a little just background on you? I mean, do you care if folks know where you're from and who you are?
No, I am
Social security
certainly
number,
not shying away. So I am up. I'm a little bit farther from you guys. I'm up in New York.
Yeah.
But I've been big fan of you guys and always love hearing your thoughts. So whenever we can connect on YouTube or on Patreon, whatever it is, I just always feel like I get so much more insight into all things Star Wars, whether it's Rebels, different books, things like that.
Wow.
So really, I just try and stay up to date along with you guys.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, really the thing is, what I think has been interesting since Disney's bought Star Wars is that there is so much to keep up to date with,
There is, but they make it so easy because I feel like ever since they bought it, they've done such a great job of making everything connect.
Mm-hmm.
So you just get so much more when you read the book right away, and then you keep up with the comic books or with Rebels, and you get all these little tie-ins. So they definitely make it really easy, but really fun to keep along with everything.
Yeah, I would say, I think Matt and I have talked about this before, just the cohesion. It's sort of like, it feels like you can read something and you're rewarded for reading it later,
Yeah. Like I said, that's that's definitely how Battlefront felt. The Iden Versio story, having read Inferno Squad, the book, it was like, oh, okay. I feel like there's a lot more context and stuff like that. Whereas before with the extended universe, it was always just kind of like all this extra stuff.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, it's a beast to kind of keep up with, but it's nice to have, I'm like Lindsey. I like to go watch other, YouTubers and read, your guys' blog on Clashing Sabers, and what have you. It's just nice to get different perspectives and things on it. So, more background on Lindsey. So she is one of our patrons, and I think you kind of joined back either around Celebration or after Celebration because, obviously we somehow got a hold of your Twitter. I don't know how this happened, but we were messaging each other, and I don't know if you followed us on Twitter or something, but we noticed you went to Celebration the same time that we did.
I did in Orlando last year. I think I had a little different experience than most people, though.
Yeah.
I spoiled myself, and I actually got the VIP ticket. So I was able to get into all the panels. I didn't have to do any of the overnight queues, anything like that. I went back to my hotel room and slept every night. And then, sure enough, every morning, second or third row for every single panel, from Last Jedi to Rebels to the 40th anniversary. It was sick.
That's unreal. You're one of those people we hated. We watched you walk in front of us, and I was like, cursing you.
I would absolutely hate me. But, I would do it again in a heartbeat. It was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, those went out. Those sold I was asking Lindsey how she got those because we tried, but I think we were a couple weeks, we waited for the next paycheck to buy something. That's not happening this time. If I can get them, I'm going to get them.
Oh, you have to. It was a team effort to get those. I think it was 4 computers, an iPad, and a phone, all refreshing. My coworkers were so good to me. They're sitting there refreshing everything. I'm sitting there screaming at them.
Yeah.
And sure enough, the only thing that went through was the link on my phone. So after all that, I'm sitting there on my phone trying to buy these tickets, but I finally got them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome. That is actually super awesome. Was that your first Celebration, or have you gone before?
No, it was my first Celebration that I was at. When they do the live streams, though, I would actually take a few days off of work and just throw it up on an Apple TV, sit on my couch and watch it for 3 or 4 days straight.
Oh yeah, we did that for the Europe one. the year before, and wow, that's awesome. And I mean, there's so much that happens at Celebration. I mean, it's not just like there's the panels, you get to learn more about the movie making process, and even like the toy collecting vendors and stuff. That some people are just there for the new toys that are coming out and stuff, which is mind-blowing.
Oh, it's incredible. I met one girl who was there. She really just wanted to see what products Hallmark was going to have come out. So she was a VIP too. She went in like half an hour early, and all she cared about was finding Hallmark. It's amazing how, what people choose to focus on while they're there.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. And you got into all the, I mean, which panels did you choose to go to? Because some were happening, simultaneously. You went into the 40-year celebration, right?
I did. Let's see. My big highlights were the 40, Last Jedi, Rebels. Dave Filoni did another panel just about, the animation stuff. There was like a woman in Star Wars with Daisy and Ashley.
Yeah.
That was sick. Oh, and then front row for Mark Hamill's tribute to Carrie Fisher.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was awesome. That was really cool. Wow.
That was
Jiminy
something.
Christmas.
But I mean, it's amazing being there and getting to talk to, people like you guys who I think we're all at a certain level of love for this fandom. So getting to talk to and connect with more people like that. I actually went back down to Florida in December. Okay. And I saw The Last Jedi 5 times opening day with some friends who I met at Celebration. Yeah. So we went to downtown Disney and kind of just relived it all.
That's unreal. That is so cool, actually. Wow. I mean, yeah, like I wish I would have done more of there's something it's called like Flying Solo or something, and it's like a group that like hooks you up with people who are either there by themselves or from other countries and just need sort of like companionship or whatever. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, one of my friends actually did it. He came in from Germany and got hooked up that way with some people.
Yeah, I thought it was super cool. And if we have a chance to do it next time, I think even though we're going with a group of friends, like I think that's better. It's like if there's some guy who's just there chilling out by himself, it's like, dude, join the group. Let's go.
Well, we went to so Ezra and I went to Orlando for the MuggleNet Live thing with Swish and Flick, the Harry Potter thing.
Yeah.
And remember all the people we met there that were just there by themselves?
Yes. Yeah.
Like that one girl, we ran into this one girl like 5 or 6 times. She was like, yeah, I just come here to the Harry Potter thing like all the time by myself. It's like, what? Like, you're not meeting up with people? Like, it's just weird.
Yeah. And it was really just like her friends weren't as into it or what have you. And just there super enjoying herself or whatever. But I was like, what a genius idea that they at Celebration that they did that, because it's so big and it's sort of like, look, here's an example. So, Lindsay, you were in the Last Jedi panel, right?
Yeah.
And you got one of the sick posters, I'm guessing?
I sure did.
Oh, my God. Okay. So we were in that as well. We were sitting down near the front to the left of the stage. So if you were facing the stage, we were all the way to the left, close to the front, like 4 or 5 rows back.
Okay.
Do you remember where you were at?
Where I was second row right in the center.
Right in the center. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So like this is crazy, but like David Filoni and all these other, Star Wars people are standing to our left against the wall, just like in the shadows. And I'm losing my mind right now, like because we're about to see all this stuff for Last Jedi. And when they showed that trailer the first time, I stood up on my chair. People were like, it was like the celebration. It was like we had just defeated the Empire and we're on Endor and like everyone's celebrating, jumping around. Like we were hugging people we didn't know. Like Mike got to high five, or Mike or Andrew got to high five David Filoni. And it was just ridiculous.
Oh
like,
my God. That's the dream.
I know. It's so unreal. So I don't know. I just think it's I don't know. There's just it's just a good feel, and it's like nice to have someone who you can hook up with, and you can walk around and experience it with the people that run the. Gosh, I wish I had their names. I'll have to look them up and maybe put a link down in the description, because they were best friends that met up and at Celebration and have kept up over the years, and every year they come back and they run this flying solo thing. I'm probably calling it the wrong thing, but it's super sick. So anyways, we're gonna have to check into that next time and grab a few of those people and make some new friends. So be kind of cool. But
for sure.
Okay, and then any news? I mean, Celebration news, nothing. I'm literally checking the website every day. I don't care if I have to do it for 3 to 4 months. Like, I'm that excited to go back. So probably won't post anything until after Han Solo movie. I'm guessing, right?
Yeah.
You think?
Well, I mean, I'm in the school of thought of they're gonna wait to do it when the Galaxy's Edge opens in the
Yeah.
Disney parks. I
Same.
think it's gonna
Yeah.
coincide with that.
Well, isn't that Matt?
In fact,
That's supposed to be
that
open
might
soon, right?
That might actually even be where the next celebration is. I wouldn't be like, because that is like, hey, if we're gonna do it, let's all have it be one thing, you know?
Yeah. I think it'll be back in Orlando, right? And it'll be,
At the new park, yeah.
Yeah, or to some degree, yeah, or I don't know. They could still use the convention center, and then people could stay there and shuttle down or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm super excited for it. I'm going. I even told the guys, I was like, if it's in Europe, count me in. I'm going. So.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, I'd go anywhere for that. After that experience, there's no way you can miss it.
Yeah. No way. So, okay. So let's move on. We got to know Lindsey a little bit. Let's move on to thoughts on The Last Jedi. A couple things we want to cover are like just your highs and lows, maybe the different themes you kind of mentioned, just how they're different maybe from the other Star Wars movies, and then get the female perspective. So what do you want to start with? We got highs and lows, just kind of.
I mean, yeah, I definitely had some incredible saga highlights from this movie. Also, though, unfortunately, it kind of gave me some of my least favorite moments. And I'm willing to bet that anyone's going to be able to guess what that specific least favorite moment is. But I was just not a fan of the whole Leia in space thing.
Yeah,
not a fan of it in the sense that it was like it looked really awkward, or not a sense of the fact that you can do that with the Force.
Not a sense that it looked really awkward.
Okay.
I love the fact that Leia is that strong in the Force. I think there are other incredible ways to show that. But for me, it really took me out of it for a second. And that's a scene where you want to be fully invested. You want to be on the edge of your seat. And then all of a sudden, from the first time to I've seen it 11 times. And even the 11th time, I was kind of just like, this is like a little cringeworthy.
Yep.
Kind of made me think of Guardians of the Galaxy. And as much as I love that movie, that's not what I want to think about in the middle of Star Wars.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
people have said
I
Superman.
get why they did
like,
it. Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, that was kind of a low for, I think, a lot of people. And like you said, it's just Matt's always called it the execution, right, man? I mean, but I mean, I love that she has those we know she's Force sensitive. We know that she's powerful in the Force and stuff, but we wanted to see it, in a different way. And it's just like, this whole movie, though, I mean, the Force powers that are used are kind of similar to what Leia and Luke do in Episode 5 and things, I mean, they actually kind of almost used that. Well, it wasn't the same, but do you remember like when Luke's calling out to Leia
they have that connection.
Yeah. He's also able to call it to Vader too. I don't know if she. I don't know. It was just kind of interesting that they harkened back to that and they used that as one of the big Force powers in this movie. So
I love that they did, though. Especially, I mean, actually, now that you say that, and now that I'm thinking about it too, we almost get the opposite or the inverse of what happened at the end of Empire Strikes Back. So, you have Luke's in there with no arm. He's hanging on to that thing and he's using the Force to call out to Leia. And she eventually goes and rescues him. And then in this one, if you think about it really, now you have Leia who's lying basically comatose and she's the one in pain. She's the one who needs help. And she's able to call out to Luke through the Force and he hears her and goes back and saves her. So it's, now that you say that, it's like this beautiful inverse.
I just got chills listening to you talk about that. That's actually, it is whenever you make, I don't know, for me, whenever I make like a connection or you hear someone else make a connection like that, I'm just always like, oh my God, it just, the layers of connections are always so cool to me. So, but okay, so that was a low, for you. But so we're gonna go back and forth. Give us a high now. We're gonna have a high.
I mean, it's funny too because I feel like the lows you really have to like nitpick to find, but the highs are so obvious. Like I thought the scene where Rey and Kylo Ren are fighting the Praetorian Guards was the best, 4 or 5 minutes of any Star Wars movie or any movie I have ever seen. It was so beautifully done. It was so necessary for part of the story. The choreography was incredible. Just there was no millisecond of a flaw in that scene, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And I think for me that's one of the things that maybe that's why I say this movie's weird, is because you have like the Leia scene, which just seems so cringeworthy. But I've asked Ez this, I don't know if we've said it on a podcast, but we've just talked about it, and we're like, do you think that the Leia scene seems that much worse because some of the other scenes, like the highs, are so high that it makes the lows seem that much lower?
Oh, definitely I do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because that scene is so well shot, and like the cinematography there and everything that's happening, the choreography and stuff. It's unreal. You can tell they spent a lot of time on that to really make sure it was perfect. And then you don't really feel like that, or maybe it's just a choice and it's a decision. But like, God, who was screening that Leia scene? It's just, I mean, whose job was that? So
well, it's like that in combination. It's just like, man, the Praetorian Guard scene. I mean, you're right. It's. I mean, I have it in like the top maybe 3 just fights. We, as and I've joked that you can't consider it a lightsaber fight unless it's like lightsaber on lightsaber. But still,
I agree.
Yeah. So, but still, we're like, man, that's probably top 3 fights just in Star Wars because it's that beautiful.
Yeah.
And then you got the Holdo scene, which again, with like the cinematography. When I was in the movie, everyone was just like breathless because like, wow, this like speechless. I mean, there's like, wow, this looks amazing.
Right.
So yeah, it's just, man, this movie has some amazing cinematography in spots.
Yeah.
It's not even so much just the fights and the cinematography and the choreography. It's that emotional component. And I think that's something that was kind of missing in, don't get me wrong, I love the prequels. I would, certainly don't want to bash the prequels, but that's something that was lacking in episode 1 and 2 was they had these incredible choreographed fights, but you don't really care that much about the characters.
Right.
Whereas in, when it's Luke against Vader, you have this extra layer of emotion with it. And that was definitely brought back in The Last Jedi.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually,
absolutely.
Until you get to 3, it's like we start to build towards that real emotional. Like this is master versus apprentice. This is hard. This is Anakin turning to the dark side, and it's is tough. But you're kind of right about that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Because I mean, even me, like I joke about episode 1 all the time, thinking I love it. Like in episode 1, when Qui-Gon is killed by Darth Maul, you see Obi-Wan rush in, but Qui-Gon was like this new character. And even still, we really don't really know that much about Obi-Wan going into episode 1. Cause he's in like, episode 4 for a little bit, then he dies. And then he's just a Force ghost a couple minutes here in 5 and 6. And then in 2, it's like Count Dooku shows up at the end, then you fight him. Whereas even in 1, when Obi-Wan dies, it's like this, it's this bigger mystery. In 4, I should say.
Yeah.
And then of course, in 5, I mean, you have Luke versus Vader.
Right.
And,
I'm your father.
Absolutely. And then in 7, Rey and Kylo Ren are still new characters.
Yeah.
But it's like Kylo Ren just killed Han Solo, right? Like, so it's like a big deal when you get to that fight.
Yeah, it is, and there's a lot of mystery surrounding her and stuff. But I think even in The Last Jedi, right, it's that we've built those characters up. We know that is, Ben Solo, and it's intense. It's just an intense moment, and you do. They've done a really good job, I think, of making us care about Rey and Ben Solo. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, because how many of us how about that scene, Lindsey, where after that fight, and Ben is like reaching his hand out to Rey. What did you want to have happen there?
Oh, that's such an awesome question. Because I mean, I love Rey. I love that she is so inherently good. There's no way I wanted her to go with him. But at the same time, it would have been so interesting if she had. So I'm sitting there, and I will never forget sitting there the first time, just holding my breath, hoping that she didn't go with him.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, she goes and pulls the lightsaber, and I let out that big exhale, and it's one of those, oh man, I didn't even realize I was doing that.
Yeah.
But I was so nervous. And that's, that's the fun of this is you get so invested where you're really committed and you worry about the choices they're going to make.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this too many times, but I mean, to the point where I was sitting there like I'm like, no, what if she goes? I can't take it. But then when I heard him, I mean, I heard Adam Driver, Ben Solo, like calling to her and saying, "Please." I'm just like, okay, okay, just do it, just go. Like,
and it's such a testament to Rian Johnson too, because I think if it were any other movie, I would sit there and be like, oh, there's no way she goes, blah blah blah.
mm-hmm.
But because of everything that he packed into the movie at that point,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting there, I was like, I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't feel comfortable at all making any predictions.
No,
right.
Well,
yeah. And it's the thing is, like, we have that dynamic. That's another parallel, which I think is sweet. In 3, when Anakin is talking to Padme and he's like, we can rule the galaxy together, and she's like, no, that's not what we want to do. Like, you had that back and forth between them, at least talking about political ideas and stuff. And then in 5 and 6, when Darth Vader is like, you can join me, we can take down the Emperor. You have this, father-son relationship. But this one, I think it's the idea that, like, we don't know that much about Rey. Like, that it's almost like it seems far more likely that she would go with him, because, like, she doesn't know who his parents are. She doesn't, or who her parents are. And she has now this Force connection, which is totally new. And even more so than Luke, it's like Luke, like Obi-Wan and everybody in the prequels, they had the entire Jedi Council to talk with. Luke, has just Force Ghost Obi-Wan and Yoda, whereas, like, Rey has no one. Like, she has no one to teach her about the Force. I mean, Luke gives her however long they're on Octu, but even still, it's all this. I mean, it's the Force is the one guiding her. So it seems far more likely. Like, that scene has so much more weight behind it, and the idea that she could go with him. That part's like, that's like one of the best parts of all of Star Wars for me.
I mean, that's a really good point, especially when you think about what they're doing everywhere else in the canon. Because, I mean, I don't want to get sidetracked, but, like, you have Rebels and you have Ezra, who was so impacted by the Empire. You have Lost Stars, where everyone's impacted by the Empire or by the rebellion, things like that. But Rey, where she comes from, she really has no reason to think anything good or bad about the Resistance or anything good or bad about the First Order. She's just been untouched by it. So you're right. It would definitely make sense for her, if anyone, to go and kind of switch sides back and forth.
Yeah.
Well, and it still could happen in 9. I think there's still a very good possibility. I'm not saying she goes full dark side, but at least, like, goes there for a while or something.
Yeah. Wow. 9. I don't even know if we can get, because I'm so nervous about even talking about it, because eventually we're going to have to switch to making, like, some theories and predictions on 9. But wow, I'm not even ready to go there mentally. But you're right. I mean, there's this Force connection, right? That's the thing that I keep thinking about. And yet you made a really good point, Matt, because if there's this Force connection happening between them and they're touching hands and, freaking, Dad walks in and interrupts this. I mean, what was that moment? I mean, that was like a real intimate moment, right? I mean, and
Ben Swallow.
Ben Swallow, yeah. So, yeah, but they're in there, and you can tell there's a connection. It's like it's growing on Rey, and so you're right. By the time we're there, like Lindsey had said, Ryan sets this up to where when we're there, you have people like me who are like, I don't even care if she goes at this point. Just go. Like, it'll work out. We'll figure it out. Like, just go with Ben. Like, maybe that's what he needs. And it was just bizarre. I'm glad she didn't, but I was just like, I could see it going either way right now. So
I mean, it also, though, says so much about Kylo, because he's so vulnerable in that moment. And for you to, you're sitting there and you just see him do this. He kills his father. He kills his master. Like, there's no reason that you should, on paper, like this guy. But when he says stuff like that, the way he says it and the motivation behind it, you sit there and you're like, is he really that bad of a guy? Would it be that bad of a deal, that big of a deal, if she went with him?
Yeah. Well, Kylo, I mean, as and I say this a lot, we think Kylo Ren's the MVP of these 2 movies. I mean, he's certainly the most compelling character, because he's the first time we've ever seen a dark side character be like, I'm struggling with the light, which I think is like the best thing, like one of the best things they've ever done in Star Wars. And like when you go back to the prequels, it's like, yeah, we see Anakin struggling, but like we know what happens, so none of those moments carry as much weight. Because I mean, they're still interesting and compelling moments. And if you were to just go into Star Wars now, having not seen it like 4 through 4, 5, 6, then 1, 2, 3, like it's got to be a totally different experience. But when we watch the prequels, we know what happens. So those moments just don't feel as big or as important because we just know it. Whereas like this, it's this level of excitement, right? Because it's new and we don't know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get Kylo Ren, who's such an interesting character. And he's, he killed his dad, but he said I'm struggling with the light side.
Yeah.
And so then you see him, that moment where he asks, he holds his hand out to Rey and just says, please.
Yeah.
It's like maybe he doesn't, like, he's dark. Maybe he just wants to be in control. That doesn't mean he wants to be in control through the dark side of the Force. And then later in the movie, we find out the reason he gets all messed up because his uncle, who he probably looked up to, like almost tried to kill him. And there's the weight behind that single moment.
Yeah.
The please is just so great.
No, it's literally no one, and every time you thought they were going to go left, they go right, and then they mix it up on you. So we had no idea which way they were going to go. I mean, by that point in the movie, we had no clue where this is going to go.
No. And I think part of that too is, like you said, he, that's an incredible point that he really just wants to be in control. Because other than that, I really don't know what Kylo Ren wants.
Mm-hmm.
And this is someone who looks so deeply into these things. I have no idea what his end goal is or what his real motivation is. And I think that's why he's as compelling of a character as he is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what else we got? We got some other highs we want to talk about, or lows, or anything else?
Okay. Can we talk about the cave scene?
Yeah.
That was definitely a high for me. I loved it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was kind of when did she, because you've actually seen it more. I've only gone and seen it 4 times.
You've seen it more than Ezra and I have seen it combined.
Yeah, 4 or 5 I think I've seen it. So when she goes down there, the motivation, well, first when she's meditating and Luke is teaching her, right? I mean, she goes straight there and Luke's just sort of like, you didn't even try to stop yourself, right? Like it offered something you wanted or needed and you just went for it. Or is that, am I right about that? Like when she's meditating?
No, you are. But for me too, there was something off about that scene. So I'm really waiting until the book comes out next month to see if they expand on that. Because there was, to me, that scene I thought was great.
Yeah. But
there was just a few holes where things didn't really make sense.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm hoping that they expand on that. But yeah, that is what he says.
Okay. So then she, ignores it for a little while, right? And then she's talking to there's another Force connection moment with Kylo, and it's after that, right, that she decides to,
that's when she goes down,
go and seek those answers. So a lot of snapping took place down there. So
it was so unsettling.
Yeah.
I love the cave scene in Empire Strikes Back.
Me too.
And
you
remember, oh God, it's so good.
Yeah.
But the line that Yoda says right before Luke goes in then is, Luke says, what's in there? And Yoda says, only what you take with you.
Yeah.
And I think that is what the dark side was supposed to be for Luke. Whereas for Rey, the dark side is supposed to be along the lines of, it's going to tell you it has these answers and it's going to tempt you with this knowledge, but really it's just going to leave you with absolutely nothing. And for them to be able to actually show that in such an let's be honest, it was deeply unsettling to watch.
Right.
Whether it is because you don't know what's going on, or even the second, third time you see it, you know what's going on, and then it's just creepy. I thought that scene was so perfectly done, and unfortunately, I think it gets overlooked because of everything that happens after it.
Yep. Right.
But it's such a crucial moment.
Yeah, not a lot of people were talking about it, honestly. When I looked around YouTube videos, like there's a couple people trying to explain what happened, but it is not really discussed a whole lot. And what was happening is my question.
So my thing is, this is something I've started to pick up on in later viewings.
Okay.
But when she first goes in and she turns around, it's because someone calls her name. There's like this voice that goes, Rey.
Yep.
And I swear, it's like a little kid is calling her name, and that's when she turns around. So I want to know, like, what that voice, who that voice is supposed to be, what it's supposed to be. Is that her when she was younger? Is that one of the kids we see at the end? What, like, I want to know what that voice is and what's going on there.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Yeah, because then she turns around and approaches it, and
which is kind of a parallel to 7, right, where she like is in the Force scene and she's like hearing voices, and she turns and walks towards him then too. So
yeah, but then when she sees herself and she sees that reflection over and over and over again, like what is that symbolizing? You know what I mean? Like that all those different rays. You know what I mean? Like what was the reflection or the?
I mean, I guess if I had to really guess, it's supposed to be like how deeply she has to go within herself to really pull these answers out of herself.
Okay.
Because she always described it, especially when she's talking to Luke, something inside me is awake. And she makes it seem like it's so on the surface and it's so apparent. But in reality, I think she needs to go so many layers into herself to really see where she fits and where she's from.
Yeah, I like that. That's actually really good. I mean, yeah, because what is it? That's she's trying to figure out her place in all of this, right? And things. And yet she doesn't know. It seems like she's blocked a lot of it off too. Like she's blocked off this past of hers in some way. Like later when she's talking to Kylo, that seems like she's always known some of this, but she's just really kept it, tucked away. So,
yeah. And I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there who say like, oh, Kylo Ren is lying. That's not who her parents are. I think it is. Honestly, I think he's telling the truth. And the reason I think that is because he starts to kind of like poke at her before they ever touch and before they have this connection. And that's when he starts in with the, who are your parents? Where are you from? Because he knows. So my theory is in 7, when he was doing the Force probe, that's when he found out who her parents are. And that's when he found out how sensitive she is to it and started using that against her. So, I mean, I definitely think that it's all true. And this is something she is so sensitive about and very deep down.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, people may not like it, but and I keep thinking I can't believe I'm about to ask this question, but like, so I'm going to set this up. So we have Ben Solo, who is the continuation of the Skywalker line, right? Essentially through Leia. And so we have that Skywalker story continuing, like, and then you have Rey who, wanders into this, and everyone's asking, is she, who are her parents? Does she, belong to, like, is she a Skywalker? Is she someone else of significance or whatever? And the fact that she's no one has got people either one baffled or two upset. But I think the fact that she's no one, number one, it kind of goes back to Anakin. Matt has mentioned this, and then also just his conception and things, and how he was created, and came from nowhere and from no one essentially, and to have that kind of come full circle, but Rey be. I guess what I'm getting to is Reylo going to happen? Is that a thing? Because does it not seem like that's what they're leaning towards? I mean, Mike would hate us having this conversation right now because he cannot stand the idea of Reylo. Not that he can't stand it, he just doesn't really believe in it. But I mean, like, they have this intimate moment where they're touching, where he's asking her to go with him. I mean, he's obviously interested in her and has a Force connection with her. So what's up with that?
And keep in mind, real quick, that they set up this idea of. In 7, it makes you believe, it's going to be Finn and Rey that are getting together. But at the very, very end of 8, we see Rey looking at Finn, and Finn's now with Rose, and so it's almost like so that subtle little thing right there, like that part's gone. So if there is going to be one, this is it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, I think the Finn and Rey thing is done. They're just friends.
Oh yeah, it's done. Yeah.
Because
I don't know if it is.
Okay.
Come
on, Lindsay.
Because Finn's you got to remember that Finn's entire motivation throughout this whole thing wasn't even getting back to Rey. It was getting Rey to safety. And that is his driving factor throughout this entire thing. So I don't think those few moments at the end with Rose is really going to change that for him.
Okay.
I think he feels definitely connected and almost responsible for what happened to Rose, and that's going to come into play. But I don't know. I wouldn't really count them out.
Wow, wouldn't that be a comeback? I mean, if he comes back in, he's just I just want him to be he is a boss. I mean, he really is. But I just want him to have some epic moments. I mean, the Phasma scene was great and all, but I don't know. I want him to have.
It wasn't enough.
Yeah, no.
It was good. It just wasn't enough.
Right.
Yeah.
I need more epic stuff. I mean, like what happens in 7 is crazy. With him and Kylo, it's insane. I can't believe he has the lightsaber and he fights him. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. No, when he steps up, he steps up.
Yeah. So, but any thoughts on Reylo?
I mean, if you had asked me going into 8, I would have been like, absolutely not. There's no way this happens.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
But now, after everything that happened, I think if Kylo Ren were to change in very specific ways in Episode 9, then it's something that would make more sense to me and that I could get behind.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm also kind of the school of thought, like, I don't think Rey necessarily needs, like, that relationship with someone in that way.
Yeah.
I think she is someone who is 100% defined by her relationships, whether it's with Finn, with Han, with Kylo, with Luke. I just don't think she needs the romantic relationship to really be that full character.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that's what we had with Luke, so, and he's Luke. So, in the originals. So, so yeah, I see that. I'm just intrigued by it. I we did one video on it and I got so many comments and people trying to explain it to me and stuff. I'm just like, wow. Okay.
Oh, the people who are passionate about it are passionate about it.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm open to, I love to just be told a story and I love to be on the edge of my seat. And so this movie did that for me. And, that's why I'm such a fan of it, really. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it just leaves you with this strong impression, whether you think it's the best Star Wars movie or the absolute worst Star Wars movie. I think it just leaves you with something that really sticks inside and just is, in my opinion, the most thought-provoking story that we have yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on that, like, were there any themes you wanted to talk about? Just things that, like messages, things that were communicated or what have you?
Yeah. I mean, I think the themes of it are really what stuck out to me the most, other than those incredible moments, the Praetorian Guards and Holdo. It's obviously a visually stunning movie, but to me, it's the themes that really drive it home. And my biggest takeaway was really the thought of what true balance is. Because up until this point, it's always been Jedi versus Sith or Rebels versus Empire. And yes, there's obviously, Resistance versus First Order. But I think the struggle within each character was more of what compelled this movie forward and drove it forward. So the fact that you have Luke having this deep struggle, the fact that you have, like you said, Matt, Kylo Ren worrying about the dark versus light inside of him. And I think it's taking each individual person and finding that balance as opposed to the external forces is really the biggest differentiator of this movie versus any other Star Wars movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's a really good point. I mean, because it's the balancing act, right? That you're going through, and to see a character like Luke, I think what has hurt people is, I mean, just that he had to. I don't know, maybe the struggle was more straightforward, or we didn't get as much of that internal thought and dialogue with him when he was struggling with his father, because he was just like, I'm gonna save him, like right away, But then in this, to see Luke go. Have these struggles with his nephew and just the destruction of his order and stuff is tough to see him go through that, really.
Oh yeah. I mean, I really like that in this movie we see the characters we love really fail, and not just in a small way, but they like monumentally fall on their face, whether it's Luke training Kylo. I mean, say what you will about the whole Canto Bight storyline, but I really liked that it was all for nothing. And they just ended up totally failing in the end. I think that's so different from anything else we've seen, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's different, and that's the thing. People, it comes down to like I was watching this video, which I will respond to at some point. It's this guy talking about why it's just a bad plot, and I'm literally going to get after this guy at some point because it's just a choice. It's a decision, and they chose to go down this path, and you may not have liked it, and you wanted something that, that you felt happy and comfortable with or whatever. But this got us out of our comfort zone in a big way. I mean, it was sort of like we didn't feel good about that. I was like, they failed. this sucks. Like, are they going to die? Are they going to kill Rose? Like right here? Like what the heck is going to happen? I mean, so yeah, I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah, but like if you go watch episode 5. Like episode 5 gets us out of our comfort zone. Like episode 5 is all, I mean, everyone fails. Han Solo's frozen in carbonite. Luke gets his hand cut off. I mean, what happened? What happens in episode 5 where people win?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, Luke goes to save his friends and is not able to save Han.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know. It was just. Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, there are failures there. I don't know why, but people have a big beef with this. Is I guess my point is
a lot of like, I don't know. I think it's maybe because they do so many things different in this. Like a lot of narratively, like as you and I have talked about this, like the plot of this, I don't see how you can dislike this movie for the plot.
Yeah,
like I just don't get it. Like I've listened to people explain it on the internet, like on YouTube videos. Like I think the plot of this movie is great.
Yeah.
I mean, execution is what I've said many times, but like, I think a lot of people are upset with the idea of like, well, the things you can do in the Force, right? Like the idea that Leia, can like Superman fly through space, or the idea that Luke can like Force project. I think it's just so many things rub people the wrong way. I don't know if it was just that that people failed.
Well, yeah, no, I think it is probably a combination of things, but you hear people just saying that's just not how it should have happened, and I'm like, that's not your decision. I mean, this is a story that you're getting told, and we're just getting to kind of, I don't know, like just peek in on the story, and it's dramatic. But I think it's neat to see our characters fail in this way and go through it. It communicates a real life, theme. It's the idea that, no matter what we may plan to do, or it basically goes back to like, I teach a novel of Mice and Men. The best, laid plans of mice and men often go askew or often go awry. They don't always work out. So it's like they had a great, awesome plan to go, help them break away. Poe's plan is cool. It would have, I mean, besides DJ, it would have worked, and they were that close, and then things don't always go the way you plan, you know?
Well, like if they did go the way you planned, then everyone would say this movie is just fan service.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you watch movies where everyone just wins all the time, that's like fan service. You have to have these struggles. Like you have to have people losing. That's how you build characters for even more epic moments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And George Lucas has always said it's been like a teaching tool for him. He's wanted to kind of teach, a younger generation about these things and to do it through this mythology. So I don't know. I think it's a really good point, Lindsay.
I think there's going to be people who were going to step out of that movie and just be so frustrated with everything else going on. Right. I know, some people just absolutely hate Kathleen Kennedy, and I can't imagine why. I think she's doing an incredible job.
Yeah.
But there's going to be people who absolutely hate it. What I love about this is, for example, I took my 3-year-old nephew to this, and he sat on my lap and was totally silent, except for like anytime there was a pork, he would turn around and just start cracking up.
Yeah.
But he absolutely loved it. And he literally like would sit there leaning forward with his jaw completely open. And he's 3 years old.
Yeah.
And then, I have a twin sister who, not the biggest Star Wars fan in the world, but she enjoys it. She texted me, we have a movie theater up here that was giving out like these pint glasses opening night. So I literally bought her ticket, and I was like, please just go for me. I can't be there. Just, I'm down in Florida. Just go. So she goes kind of begrudgingly because she was like, I don't want to be there when there's a big crowd, blah, blah, blah. But she went for me.
Right.
And she comes out, she calls me right away, and she goes, that was the best movie I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And for me, for this too, really, I know it upsets some of the complete diehard fans, but I think it got more people into the saga than it did out.
Yeah, I actually kind of agree with that. And I talked to my students, just like you said with your nephew. They love it. I mean, they aren't like super reading into all these different things. It was just a roller coaster ride, and they loved it. It was action packed, and they have thoughts about what they want to see happen later on, and it's, I don't know, the mind of a child. It's really well set up for that.
Yeah, and all these people in line that are like, I'm done with Star Wars. No, you're not.
They're gonna go watch Han Solo.
If you were done with Star Wars, you wouldn't be making YouTube videos about talking about being done with Star Wars.
Yes.
Like you just wouldn't do it. And like maybe that's the best thing about this movie is that this movie is so divisive that like everyone's talking about it.
Yes.
I don't remember people talking nearly this much about Episode 7.
Yeah, I mean, it was more straightforward, like what's going to happen, but this is more getting into the nitty gritty of the movie, and I mean, because you have people pulling out every little scene and going over it, diving into every little line. That's why it's like so well layered, and I think it's very well written. And I think Rian Johnson deserves that trilogy that he's going to oversee.
100%.
Yeah. So, before we run out of, we have plenty of time left, but just want to get to some other things here with Lindsey. This, and I don't even know how to phrase it. I asked you about it before we started. Like what's I guess like the female perspective on this? Like sometimes they say Star Wars is very progressive, has been since the 70s and 80s. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, Matt, what's a better way to phrase this question? Like,
are you talking about? I can say it. I think you guys will get some heat if you say it.
Yeah, go ahead and say it.
But I'll go ahead and dub it the woman problem.
Yeah.
I mean, Lindsey said it. I don't know, So
I said it, not them. Guys,
right.
Don't get mad at them. Get mad at me.
Yeah.
It's so funny for me because I mean, I got into this saga. I was 9 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And obviously Leia was a big deal. Excuse me. But for me, the real kind of gateway drug was Padme.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely loved her.
Thank you.
I loved her.
You.
I mean, I was 9 years old, and she just totally shaped the kind of, not only the kind of woman that I would want to be, but the kind of person.
Yeah.
Wow.
And for me to have grown up with her, with Leia, and then with some of the other female Jedi that we got, by the time really Ahsoka and Rey came into things,
right,
it didn't seem like that big of a deal for me. And I think if you were to take all kind of current events out of the picture, everyone else would feel the same. I think that having all these strong women in Star Wars, having Forces of Destiny and Rey, Ahsoka, Jyn Erso, all of them,
right,
not that different, and I made this comment once before, but I'll say it again because I think it's so important that if you were to have a book like Phasma in any other franchise, it would be backfire. Just such a big deal because everyone would take the stance of how could you have a female villain? This is what you're doing to women. This is how you're portraying women. It's all evil. I mean, that book is messed up. She does some messed up stuff in that.
She does. Yeah.
Any other franchise, people would go nuts for the fact that they're portraying women out to do this.
Right.
But for Star Wars, it was so normal.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, the fact that a character is a man or a woman in Star Wars, to me, has never been a big deal. I love Han Solo just as much as I love Padme. And I wanted to be both of them for very different reasons, and gender had nothing to do with it. So I think when people get so up in arms about the, quote unquote woman problem in Star Wars, it's really more about current events today than it is telling the story. Yeah. And that's why I get upset when people do it.
Right.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's a really good point about the current events and things that are happening around this, and people are trying to read into. We had another buddy, Nick, who sent us this. And Nick, if you're listening, thanks for the awesome rant on Patreon. He just went on this massive rant about, what was that, Matt? Antifa,
yeah,
videos and stuff. He went into some dark places, and he kind of said the same thing that you said. It's just sort of like once you look at it for just what it is, like you let these outside things influence, I guess, the way that you view it. And you realize it's really not, I don't know how much of it's intentional or unintentional or whatever. I'm sure there's some intentional, let's diversify the cast a little bit. Let's make sure that we have, I'm sure there's some of that, but not to the degree that would people take it, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. I agree with that. I think I almost feel like people are using it as a cop out, which is this, first of all, utterly absurd. That should never be a cop out. I don't know. I just view people as characters. Like it doesn't matter to me. Like, I mean, if I look specifically at the female characters, I mean, I'm with you, Lindsay. Like I think Padme is one of the most underrated characters in Star Wars, period. Like one of the most underrated. I'm always a big supporter of her. And like, I don't know, like for me, like I'm not a super big Rey fan. Like it has nothing to do with her being a woman. Like I just think that she was took a big back seat in this movie. But like I think Jyn Erso is a way better character. Just because I don't know, I just like Rogue One more. I don't know. So I just like Jyn Erso more, and I just hopefully we get more of her and like backstories and things like that. I just, for me, I don't know. It's never like I feel like Star Wars has a woman problem. Like I don't know. I don't.
No. I think now a lot of it is also coming from the fact that they're trying to be more obvious that they've always been progressive. I mean, I enjoy Forces of Destiny just fine.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's, cute. Again, I have my little nephews and I sit there and I watch it with them. And, God forbid I turn it off for 2 minutes. Right. They're like, no, keep going. Like it's cute. That's the audience it's geared for. But I think the fact that they are marketing it as, the women of Star Wars, that might be where they're getting a little bit of heat. Yeah. But I don't really care either way. I don't think, again, I relate to Rey and Padme just as much as I do Han and Obi-Wan and Luke. Yeah. It has nothing to do with gender.
Yeah. I think you were right though, because you said like maybe it has a lot to do with the current time that we're in where there's definitely a lot of things, especially right now, about like quality and pay in Hollywood and things like that. Like that's obviously a huge thing right now. So maybe people are just reading too much into it and stuff like that.
Yeah, just take it for an awesome freaking story and enjoy it. I mean, I don't know. That's the whole point. We're going to sort of watch this mythology continue, and there's going to be it's real life. You have strong female characters in real life. You've got strong male characters. You've got all these different things, and they've just balanced that well from the beginning. It's always been much more like true to, I don't know, life and who we are. Yeah. So and like these characters are awesome. Like Phasma's awesome. Like she's super cool. Yeah. Like Jyn Erso, super cool. Princess Leia, super cool. Right. Like I didn't go watch Wonder Woman to see Chris Pine. Like, okay, like I went and saw Wonder Woman because Wonder Woman's awesome. Right. Like
you guys did do a fantastic review of Wonder Woman too, and I think it was excuse me, sorry. It was pointed out then too, like it's just a great character. It had nothing to do. Oh, sorry about that. No, it had nothing to do with, the fact that she was a woman or not.
Right. Yeah. You're right. Absolutely. I mean, by the way, if you need to answer that, you totally can. So
it's just my brother.
Bring him into the podcast. We got it. We can cover you. Go get him. We got you.
Yeah, we can pause and edit. And
we can pause and edit. We're good. So. Just get him. I mean, put him down on the podcast. What's up, bro?
Yeah.
We're going down. We're taking my nephews to a monster truck rally.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Lucky.
Cool. I know. It should be good. I took him last year, so now him and my other sister are going to join.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
It's cool that you have a twin sister. Wow.
It is. She actually lives like 3 buildings away from where I am too.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Yeah, and she lives with my roommate's sister, so the 4 of us just kind of have our own little family down here.
Okay, cool. All right, so we good? We're going to continue?
All right, sorry about that. Yeah, we are good.
Okay, yeah, cool. Okay, cool. Last kind of thing we want to jump into is just Han Solo thoughts. Is that cool to do? Just to kind of get your thoughts
let's do it.
On that?
I mean, nothing's come out yet. I don't know when it's going to be up, but nothing's come out yet. But I don't know. I kind of just want something a little different. And it's funny because I get so into like the books and everything. And with Rebels wrapping up and not that many books coming out, I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, it's going to be such a light year. There's going to be nothing going on. And then I'm like, oh, wait, no, we get 2 whole movies in 12 months.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just hope it's enough to hold me over until news about episode 9 starts coming out.
Right.
Oh, gosh. I mean, so that's a real safe way to go there, Lindsay. That was good. Because we have no idea, right? It could be it could be epic, right, Matt? I mean, this could be.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. When I thought Rogue One was gonna suck. Like I totally thought Rogue One was gonna suck, and then it totally didn't. This movie, though, because we heard about the reshoots, this movie has me a little more worried, mostly because it's coming out in May and we haven't seen anything for it. Now we're recording this the day of this episode right here, the day of the Super Bowl. We're supposed to get a teaser tonight, but it just seems so illogical to me that there wasn't a teaser trailer or something during Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Because I mean, what's the difference of 2 months? Because it seems like if everyone's going to go see Last Jedi, why not drop a teaser for the Han Solo movie then? Like, I mean, obviously the Super Bowl's still a huge time to show it off, but you know that everyone's going to see a Star Wars movie. Why not get them more invested? It just seems like a big wasted opportunity.
It's like they're almost hiding it.
Yeah. It seems like a huge wasted opportunity to me. And then I'm not really a big Han Solo fan. I mean, he's cool, but like I would much rather have had a Princess Leia movie. I think Princess Leia, I like her. Of like the three main characters in episode, in the original trilogy, I like Luke the most, obviously. He's Luke Skywalker. Yeah. And then I like Princess Leia a lot more than I like Han Solo.
See, I love Han Solo. He's probably my favorite from the original trilogy. I'm sitting there, I'm like, need this story. I don't sit there and I'm like, oh man, I wish I knew this information, or I wish I saw how it happened. So right now, that's what I'm sitting there thinking. By the time we see the trailer, if we find out more about what that story is, it might change my mind. But if it is a weaker story, I think if they tell it in a very fun way, I'm going to be okay with it. And I mean, my biggest wish list item is that we see Rey Sloane.
Oh.
Yeah,
wow.
That's who I think Thandie Newton might be playing.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought about that. That's
just total wish list. I realize it's probably not going to happen, but if Thandie Newton plays a young Rey Sloane, I would be over the moon.
Yeah. Wow, that would be sick. That would be really sick.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. Like, I think maybe it might be more something that, like, if it's funny and kids can...
If it feels like, say, like the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, okay.
Yeah.
And it's enjoyable, and it's kind of a fun time, and it just, maybe it expands locations in Star Wars. It doesn't really do too much. It's going to fill in a gap a little bit for us, in the timeline, but, that's really all it's going to do, and that's fine, We need to take it for what it is, and I think, the whole piece. There are people I've been talking to; they don't even realize a Han Solo movie is coming out. So I have to say, I used to think, okay, it's a marketing strategy. Yeah, they're just gonna, it's different, but this is what they're doing. But I now more think it might be just sort of they weren't ready for it, or they wanted to let Last Jedi kind of have its moment, which I think is partially true. But then I've got people at work that are like Star Wars fans that, well, they're not like uber fans, but they enjoy it. They're like, there's a movie coming out in May. Like they have no idea. So yeah, maybe a missed opportunity to do a little teaser, but I don't know. Okay. So.
Okay. Okay. I do know why Han Solo is not coming out May 4th.
Okay.
It's that's when Infinity War is coming out, the Avengers movie.
Oh, good call.
Because we kept going back on that. Like, why is it not coming out May the 4th? It seems like a huge oversight. Oh, they're not going to compete with themselves. I get it. Now it makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's also, that's really close to, I mean, May's just May the 4th versus May and end of May. I don't know. It's also probably a timing thing, like with all the things that happened, like they needed to I don't know. Maybe they needed a couple extra.
I'm actually really surprised they didn't push back till December. I kind of wish they did.
That's what I was looking. That's why I was looking. I was going to look it up and say that. I was like, it seems like they should have released it in December. Because then I was like, oh, maybe that's when Infinity War is coming out, which is certainly Disney's going to be their biggest movie of the year. Mm-hmm. That almost even it being May 25th seems a little too close.
Real close, yeah. That
seems a little too close for me for it to be released, because Infinity War is going to be enormous. I mean, it's probably going to be, it could be a $2 billion movie. Like,
yeah, I'm a little surprised. Yeah, I don't know, because they remember they had originally talked when they had fired Lord and Miller that everyone was discussing, is it going to get pushed back, and we were okay with it being pushed back, but that did not happen. So they tried to keep. I
almost feel like the more I don't hear about this movie, the more I think it might just be a quick, easy way to get Woody Harrelson's character in and see what happens with him, whether it's, new series of books or whatever it is. It's almost like they just kind of want to rush through it, introduce one or two new characters, new locations, and hope for the best.
Yeah, and as long as it's lighthearted and it's not like a catastrophe.
Which it's Ron Howard. It will be.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at December and seeing what is Disney releasing. Are they releasing, any Marvel movies, or is there anything else? I mean, there's nothing. There's a Mary Poppins movie. Okay, I guess maybe they're expecting that to be huge because that is their third big franchise. Is the remake or live actions of their older animated movies. So that is kind of like their like Beauty and the Beast, stuff like that, obviously. But I mean, I don't know. It seems to me like, why didn't you just do Star Wars then? Just weird.
Yeah, maybe they thought like they would be able to catch some of the momentum from The Last Jedi into this or whatever. But
yeah, I mean, Wreck-It Ralph 2 is November. I mean, that's I think is going to do really well. So I don't know. Weird.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll get more tonight. It's Super Bowl Sunday, so we'll get some more tonight and in the trailers. And I think I might release this episode a little bit earlier than I thought, guys. So this should be going up here soon. Lindsey, thanks so much. We really appreciate having you here. Can you kind of let everybody know where you're at? Like plug your social media.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Like I said, I'm a big fan of what you guys have to say, so I'm really excited that I got to join the conversation with you.
Yeah, cool.
But you guys can certainly find me at the Movie Losers channel. I have a series there called Moss Eisley Happy Hour, and then you can always find me on ClashingSabers.net. I have a blog there, also under Moss Eisley Happy Hour. And we are actually launching a new podcast over there to review the new books in the canon as well. So stay tuned for that. But then, like you said, if you want to ever find out my thoughts about Star Wars or just find out fun stuff that my mom says to me, you can always find me on Twitter at Miss Lindsey G.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. That's cool that you guys are starting a podcast there at Clashing Sabers.
Yeah, well, the guys over there do one that I'll go on every now and then, but they just asked me to start one up too for really just focusing on the books and catching people up to speed there.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, wow, you might have to hook us up there and see if we can get a collaboration going with those guys.
Oh, that'd be sick. Let's definitely talk about that.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, Matt, thanks again for joining us, buddy.
Thanks.
Actually, hey, yeah, why don't you tell everybody, we got a couple things to plug. Matt's good at this. What do we got?
Oh, good God. At this point, we do so many things, but here is the rundown. Obviously, Ezra and I are here on Rebel Watch. You can check us out on YouTube, Podbean, iTunes. I do a video game podcast called Box Trick. Do that with one of our good friends, Tiffany, who's been on Rebel Watch before, and we're actually going to be doing a journey through Star Wars with her here on Rebel Watch. She's also on Swish and Flick. Ezra does another podcast called Up Talkin' Tolkien, an unexpected podcast with our good buddy Lane. It's all about Lord of the Rings, things like that. Ezra and I also run a now very, very heavily more focused Game of Thrones podcast called Second Breakfast. We're going to be doing some other fantasy stuff like that in the future. Have some other podcasts coming out soon. So we're just slowly taking over the world. We're just slowly taking over the world through podcasting and YouTube.
It's just so fun because we have, like I've always said it, we have the discussions anyways, so now we're getting to talk to other people like Lindsey and other podcasts.
Right.
And we do this ourselves anyways here. So record it. Let's go. Let's have the discussion. Yep. Another thing that we have going on too, we've started doing giveaways on our Patreon. So anyone who's a patron, we're going to be doing monthly giveaways, and we're kind of coordinating that with a couple guys from Rebel Toys here in Delaware. Good guys, Eric and Don, and kind of a little partnership that I'm forcing upon them to kind of help us out with. We're going to have them on the podcast. They're going to talk about some just the history of Star Wars toys. These guys know everything there is to know about it, and so it's super cool to kind of get their perspective and take on it. So that will be coming. Also, Mike has some things coming up with Star Wars Trivia Trials coming back, so he's going to be piloting that, and we'll keep you updated. So, all right, guys. Thanks again, Lindsey. Really appreciate it. Good to have you here. Matt.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Matt, thanks, buddy, and stay tuned. We'll have some updates. Also, if you haven't followed us, by the way, on Facebook, we're going to be communicating a lot more with people on Facebook and we need like a calendar. We're developing a calendar right now because consistency is kind of crap sometimes. So we're working on that though. Matt and I've got a plan. We have a calendar. It's going to be great. All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. And as always, may the Force be with you.